to me, I think they all come hand in hand. Metaphysics, astrology, spirituality, numerology, human design, the I Ching, all these different things. And to me, what I've really come to understand, and for you to understand for the audience, that the birth chart is the map of your life. So you're up in heaven and you're on the motherboard, or you're relaxing with God, and God is, saying to you, where do you want to travel? Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Earth? And you select your parents. But you're sitting there and you're pushing buttons. I would want a little bit more compassion and empathy. My soul needs to evolve, and I need to learn some discipline and patience. I need to have a challenging mother so I can learn to appreciate and then nurture and love unconditionally my children. Go through the hardships, to struggle with some poverty. Oh, maybe I need a limp foot, or like I chose to have an eye disease. And you make the selection, and what you are actually pushing and selecting when you come in, that's the 360-degree 12-house natal birth chart. That's what you've chosen.
Welcome to the Casual Temple. This week we welcome Eric Big E Taylor, who is a professional intuitive astrologer and relationship coach. Thank you, Eric, for joining us on the Casual Temple. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much, Verily. I am so excited. And the minute you reached out to me and I found out you were from Seattle, and I was like, go Seahawks. But I was
That's
just
right.
I tell people all the time, yes, I'm this astrologer, relationship, spiritual guy. But I'm like, don't forget, I'm a native New Yorker, and I am half Cro-Magnon man. I love my sports. So I definitely, respect your Seahawks, but my Steelers got to beat you guys last week, so I was really happy.
Well,
But I'm
I
so
will
excited to be
say,
here. I'm
yeah, thank
very
you. My
excited.
husband is from Erie, Pennsylvania, so he's from a Steelers family, and I actually am I had to go Steelers because he said that's
Oh,
part of
I
the
didn't know.
marriage.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh well, now, as they said in Step Brothers, did we just become best friends?
That's right. Exactly. That's all it took. Like, yes.
Oh, that's great.
Oh man, so I know you just have such an amazing story. I do want to talk mainly about astrology because your astrology channel it is now my favorite one to tune into.
Oh,
You have
thank
such
you.
wonderful energy and you're so knowledgeable. Anyway, it's amazing. So,
No, I really appreciate that. And one thing, one time I had someone, I think it was a fellow astrologer, comment,
mhm.
and he said, once I realized that you were a Virgo sun and a Cap moon, he was like, and I looked at your channel, he was like, that's a workhorse. He's
Oh,
like, your playlist, he's like, you've been putting in work. And I said, yeah, man, that's what
yeah.
I do. I put in work. I am proud to say that, if you are even new to astrology or you want to learn it, I always think that, whether you wanted to become a professional or just learn it to know your chart and family and friends, it is good to take, let's say, like my level one astrology course, my basic
Mhm.
foundations to learn. But I am proud that through my channel, you can pretty much see your entire birth chart with all the placements and get a really cool, soulful perspective of each placement, from your Mercury in Leo or Sag, and then your Mercury in the sixth house or whatever it is. And I try to, do a deep dive, and I'm always going to be me,
Mhm.
always. I was prepared for the Age of Aquarius and Pluto and Aquarius years ago because I only know how to be my true authentic self, and that's like the highest frequency for this time. Love, so like the trine, right?
Mhm.
Love, gratitude, and being your true authentic self, and that's going to be the greatest currency in the Age of Aquarius, and definitely for the next 20 years.
Oh gosh, for real.
So that's me. I'm
Yeah.
proud, and I'm a Scorpio rising, so I'm
Right.
proud to. I'm all earth and water.
Right. Oh, a great combination for sure. So can we start by kind of what were some early either spiritual or paranormal experiences that kind of led you maybe into astrology that you would like to share?
Well, that's really an interesting question because I don't really think there were any of those.
Mm.
I think for me, I grew up in New York City. My father's from Tampa, Florida, and then a Harlem businessman. My mother was born and raised in Harlem and a school teacher. I knew growing up I was a Virgo, my sister was a Libra, my dad was an Aries, and my mother was a Taurus. And even though she was Catholic and he was Baptist, we definitely, I knew that little bit of astrology at a very young age.
Mhm.
I can remember, you know, I was so curious, and I remember I would always get the paper. I was an avid reader, but not necessarily books, but I read the books but it was like about Pete Rose or Muhammad Ali. Like I needed it to be about sports, and then I would read. But I read the newspaper every day. So I would start with the New York Post or Daily News and start with the sports section, and then I would go read the horoscope. And I know now that that's just your sun sign, and you have this whole complex birth chart of sun and moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn for the inner planets, and then these generational outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and then these important asteroids and other placements like True Black Moon, Lilith, and Chiron, and the North and South Node. But
Mhm.
growing up my whole life, I only just knew, but then I really would say I mastered sun sign astrology and had a great passion for it. And then even when I got into college, I was upstate New York for a few years at a small community college, and then I went to and then graduated from the University of Maryland at College Park. And I found this beautiful big, it was like big astrology book. I don't even remember the name of it, but it would break down the deacons. It would be like the week of the Enigma, Virgo 2. And it would let you know, like, oh, you are good with, let's say, a Capricorn 1 for work and a Pisces 3 for love, or a, Sagittarius this for friendship. And it was so detailed. But when I remember it clear as day, I'm sitting down and I read, the second deacon, right? And so I'm on the Virgo Capricorn deacon, okay? And it's titled The Week of the Enigma. And as soon as I read that, I was hooked because I, was even in college, I was thinking of the future. I've kind of always been that innovative, futuristic, like Uranus type energy. I have
Mhm.
11th house stellium, so I really connects me to being that way in Virgo. And I I was thinking of a one man show, and I was going to title it E, the Energetic Enigma. So when I read that, the week of the Enigma, I was just like, okay, you had me at hello. Like, what's
Right.
up? Like, that's wild, right? So I
Yeah.
start to read, and I swear to you, it's as I'm maybe 60% through reading it, I'm like turning around to see if there's cameras anywhere to see like the Truman Show, like who's spying on me and watching my life. It was so detailed and it was scary, but it was so like I felt like someone had, had an MRI and saw my kidneys, my liver, my heart.
Right.
It was powerful. And from that point on, I was like, this is for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but I could say I went through really that yin yang experience with it because in 1999, previous years before, actually a decade before, I met my half sister, who was a Taurus, like my mother, and she lived in California. And I was a professional actor in New York City, and I had gone out to try to shop my first screenplay that I wrote and audition for some, potential pilots or commercials. And so I was spending time in California with my good acting buddy, and then spent time with my half sister. Well, I didn't know my sister was a born again Christian. And she wasn't just like a Christian light. She was like I call her a Christian thug from
Oh,
California. And she was the type of person that would come straight up to you and be like, oh, so if you die tonight, do you know if your soul's going to heaven or hell? And I'm like, what? Like, so she was just like, boom. And
wow.
so I started to go to church with her, and I would go to Bible study, and I loved it. And pastor was amazing. She had a female pastor. It was a non-denominational Christian church right in, not too far away from the Lakers old Staples Center. And, and so I went to church one night in Bible study, and I wound up giving myself to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And so then immediately I just was like, oh, no way, astrology and blah, 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 and all this stuff,
Right.
and I don't regret getting rid of my big astrology book and all that.
Yeah.
But, it was definitely an interesting time because things kept always bringing me and pulling me back, even after 99 to astrology.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how. And if you want, I mean, I might as well just say it now. Like it really triggered when and recharged in my life after I moved to Arizona in
Mm.
2011. I left New York City. I got married in '08, and had my first son in '09. When I married my wife, immediately had a stepson. So he was my first son. He was a Virgo like me.
Oh.
And so it was just great. And, and then soon after we had, our first child together, my second son. And, I was just like, I can't raise these kids in New York. It's not the place where I grew up.
Mm.
Everything was a fight to get to work. I'd leave in the dark, come home in the dark, fight to get a seat on the train. It was just too much stress. And then I'm like, oh, I got to worry about educating the boys and couldn't
Mm.
afford private school. But then, to get to a good public school, even though I lived in a nice neighborhood, there was a lottery. So it wasn't guaranteed that you would get in. I mean, it was just foolishness and it was just too much.
Right.
The minute we moved to Arizona, and I really needed it because I had a few surgeries, so humidity was like the devil for me,
Oh.
that my hands and feet would swell up. So the weekends I would need to recover to get back to work on Monday. So my wife was like, "That's not good. You're in too much pain, love," and da da da. So we found a place, Arizona, no humidity,
Right.
very dry, and like probably 350 days of sunshine. So and I always tell people, yeah, it gets to 115, 120, and it sucks. But those 3.5 months, we earn the 9.5 of like, or 8.5 of perfect weather. Like it is like, even the winter, like I feel embarrassed now when I say that it's cold. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so cold. And they're like, what's the temperature? I'm, oh, it's 62
Oh gosh.
or 58. And people looking at me like they want to cut me. Like, are you kidding?
Right.
And I know as a New Yorker, like, dude, I shouldn't even ever like utter those words
Mhm.
cold with like 50 and 60. But when you're coming from 115, 62 degrees is freezing, so it's all relative. And I have found with the drier climate, you don't feel the humidity. You really don't. So then the cold, it's bone chilling when there's no humidity.
Mhm.
So, but say all that to say, before I left New York, I fractured my ankle really bad and crawled back to work the last 2 days of the school year to I was a teacher in the Bronx, to keep my health insurance for the family. And
Mhm.
it was bad. They said I'd have been better off with a clean break. And it was a block from my job. I went down on black ice, something that would never happen in Arizona. And,
Mhm.
unless I was way up in the mountains near Flagstaff. But, and when I came out here, I had to have a second surgery, tibula, fibula, plate, screws, oh, just a mess. But I wound up getting valley fever, and it's in a
Mm.
lot of the states. They have it in Washington, Fresno, and Cali. It's like a fungus that really exists underground that usually gardeners or pets like dogs would get it.
Mm.
But you can get it if you're like, around the soil or like in Arizona a lot of times, because that happens in Nevada, Utah as well, New Mexico. You can, like a little dust storm.
Right.
It was so innocent. Do you know, I'm looking for the cable guy. I go to my front door because I see a car coming in, and I look and I walk outside, open the front door, and it was one of those like weird, puffy, cloudy days, like these yellow, puffy clouds. And like the movie Ghostbusters, a gust of wind came and was like, and I
Oh.
was, and I come inside and I tell my wife, I was like, I think I'm gonna be sick. She's like,
Ooh.
what happened? I'm like, tell her. She's like, oh, okay, don't worry about it. Just sit down, get some water. I mean, the next day, I wound up in the ER. I I was just like chest pains and nerve issues going down my left arm, and then my wife was like, and I had just come from a doctor appointment checking on my shoulder, and she was like, "Well, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, do you want to
Mm.
go to hospital?" And I was like, "I don't know. I think maybe I should." I was like, "I don't want to be some dumb, stubborn man who all of a sudden just winds up dying at home because I don't want to go to the hospital when I'm feeling
Hmm.
like I've never felt like in my life,
Right.
like having heart, like my heart was tightening and like numbness going down my left arm. And, so needless to say, it usually shows up in your lungs, the valley fever. It did
Mm.
not for me. It went to my head and neck, and I was producing mucus every day, like as if I had the flu. Western medicine completely failed me. It took me 17 months to get to a naturopathic doctor who then diagnosed it through the microdermal screening where they do in Great Britain and England. They're just starting to do it now in America, maybe the last couple of years, but back in 2013 was not the case. And
Hmm.
I was getting sicker and sicker, just had the newborn twins who are now 10. And I was in such pain, I could hardly help my wife to feed them with bottles after a while. And when I finally got to this doctor and I got the medicine, which is called antifungal diflucanazole, then I did garlic IVs. And when I tell you, I am like, I don't even want to get into like my weight and stuff, but I got so big that my face was like 4 or 5 times the size and it was all
Whoa.
fluid and mucus. The lymphatic system was overrun. So
Mm.
that led me to researching on YouTube about health stuff. And then it got me into medical astrology and then back into astrology. And then I was like, well, I can't even really work a 9 to 5 job. I'm
Hmm.
still battling this health. I was doing sports radio. We had gotten, my buddy and I were doing this great show. We were like hitting triples and home runs in the minor leagues, but neither one of us was a former athlete. And so we weren't getting picked up by like Fox, CBS, or ESPN. Now, CBS Sports offered us the show in the minor leagues in Arkansas for like no money. And I was like, he was in New York, I'm in Arizona. I was like, we could do New York, LA, or Arizona for some money, but not like, our wives wouldn't go for it,
Right.
We had little kids, like, just like, get out of here with that. And so so then we kind of, wean down and we still like bring up, fire up the show, every once in a while. We're going to do like an NFL playoff preview next week, because we love it, and it's the tagline, it was Ray and Tay today. And the tagline was talking sports with friends because we've been friends since like 11, 12 years old, always talking sports, so it was really cool. And, but the astrology was calling. There was that knock again. And it was like, so I decided to take a class and I studied with an amazing astrologer, and it led me to becoming a professional astrologer myself. Her name is Heather Eland. And just like me, she's a Scorpio rising and a Virgo sun. So we had a lot in common. And she was, a lot younger than me, but just so kind and thoughtful. And the class was a bunch of students from all over the world. It was a smaller group, but it was nice. And she just like, just the nuts and bolts. So for example, when I first started looking at astrology, I was learning how to read my chart on my own, but using Placidus. So she takes more of the Hellenistic approach where they look at more, when a lot of Project Hindsight and different astrologers like Robert Hand were, doing all this investigative research, and they were getting these old ancient books from the book of, from Alexandria and ancient Kemet and Babylonian times, Greek, Roman, all this stuff. And the books, they were actually, the old astrologers were not using Placidus. That's more modern Western tropical. They
Hmm.
were using the whole sign system, right? And so, and that's where the ascendant starts in the first house, but whatever degree it is, it's just, even 17 degrees, it's just the ascendant is the point is in the middle, right, of your birth time, the eastern horizon in the sky, the time you were born, that's you determine the ascendant. Well, when you do Placidus, you started the first house at that degree point. So then you can have Scorpio on your ascendant in the first house and then part of Scorpio in the 12th house.
Hmm.
And it just can throw off the chart. So even astrologers, Western tropical astrologers who use Placidus, they still have to use the whole sign system when you're doing timing techniques, right? Like annual perfections. And then it helps when you're doing deeper interpretations with solar returns or secondary progression charts, right? So that's where you look at the first house and it's the I am energy. You're coming from mom. It's the only house of self. Every other house is then an offshoot of you in relation to others, right? So what's wild is that when you do that, the first house is 0, 12, 24, 36, 48, so on, so on. They cap it at like 120 because that's when most people feel that the aliens fused our telomeres and separate from the toxins and poisons of fluoride and the food and all the other stuff, that's sort of the most that a human could live to. Although I think now as we are, ascending and in really the 5D and the Age of Aquarius, we don't know. Humanity may be able to live longer, as we all just, continue to do the good work, the light work, and spread the love and vibrate from higher frequencies. So the whole sign system is beautiful. So I could track in your chart, let's say if
Mhm.
you had a huge event in your life at 26. Well, 26 is the third house. So that's your local community, your siblings, your cousins, your neighbors, transportation, social media, your elementary school years, your reading, writing, learning, sales and marketing, right? It's your athletic ability, your skills, your self efforts. It's also becomes at that 26 or 38 years old, every 12 years, that third house, it becomes the adult relationship with your mother. And
Mm.
it's where the moon has its planetary joy. So that's where annual perfections, I could look and be like, oh, well, Marilee, at this time at 26, these are some of the themes. And this, based on the planets there and aspects, I'll look what's opposing it in the ninth. I can see or tell you what was going on that year of life. And so that's the magic of annual perfections. And so I could talk about astrology all day. So, but that's how I kind of jumped into it from
Mhm.
childhood, went away from it,
Right.
and came back. And now I'm hooked for life.
Yeah, seems like it for sure. Oh, so I know you mentioned Heather Eland was your main teacher. Did you have any other guides or books or things along the way that you
Oh
loved?
yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, I've read a lot of the basic books, like that big astrology book I told you,
Mm, right.
books by Robert Hand and uh oh God, what's her name? Linda Goodman. I remember reading a book of breaking down the moon, but then I
Mhm.
would just read articles and I would look through little pieces of Chris Brennan's book about Hellenistic astrology. But for me, I just started diving in and watching the videos on YouTube. And to be honest with you, um, it was like I was remembering it
Mm.
because, like I had told you, I'd mastered sun sign astrology decades before. But when I started to bring up charts and look at it, and then when I finally, decided to take an actual class with Heather, and I would do those little like quick little webinars or seminars with other people, but that was the first class that I took, and it just was like it poured into me and out of me so quickly. I had to adjust because visually for me, I'm visually impaired and I have an eye disease. So I was having trouble at first understanding. So this is what happened to me. My mind, Virgo and Mercury, is like a computer.
Mm.
So as a professional actor, I had to do it. I would just memorize things. And then when I visually see something, I can kind of picture it later on when I'm not looking at it.
Mm,
And
mhm.
I don't consider it like a photographic memory. I don't know, how people label those things or whatever, but I don't think that it's the case. But for me, I can just visually see something. And just like how even in the dream realm, when I'm sleeping at night now, as a professional intuitive astrologer, when I'm working on a client's chart, I will dream about their birth charts and
Oh,
I'll see placements and I'll get downloads and insights. But so it came back to me, I would say, because after doing different readings, an Akashic Records reading with Debbie Solaris, who's now a friend and been on my podcast, 3 times, and just a real heavyweight in that field, and talking about aliens and UFOs and the Akashic, that I have been working on astrology for a millennium,
wow.
really working on the formation of the zodiac belt and the constellations and in the galactic center. and to be honest with you, lifetimes here on Earth, and I actually feel that. I
Hmm.
I I, I received that. Like I'm very, you know, I'm very analytical, logical. I'm Virgo on steroids. When I tell you I have a stellium in Virgo, it's like Sun, Mercury, Mars, Pluto. I mean, it's seven, eight things. Okay.
Hmm.
And for me, it's not that I had an issue with religion or spirituality, but there was always a mental aspect for me. I need evidence, I need proof, right?
Hmm.
But at the same time, I've always had what I call deep water faith. And I would joke about it in terms of relating it to sports with my Yankees and Knicks and my Pittsburgh Steelers, my team.
Right.
I was like, you got to just have deep water faith. I got deep water faith. We're gonna win. And and a lot of times it works in my favor, and I pray to God. I'm like, God, please let my team win and this and that. And of course I pray for serious things too, but I love sports because to be honest with you, um, it was a way my entire life to connect with my father. My father
Yeah.
was murdered when I was 6 years old. And what's wild, Marilee, when we
Wow.
had that class, Heather used my chart as an example. I volunteered her and she said, yeah, sure. But she broke down in my birth chart, and it wasn't in my sister's or anywhere else, in my mother's, but in my birth chart, you can literally, by the planetary placements and alignments, describe in detail the events that took place of basically my father's murder.
Wow.
She broke it down. We had people in, I'm in Arizona, someone in New Jersey, someone in Indonesia, someone in, Canada, Australia, maybe like 8 to 12 students, but it was like all over the world. And everybody was like, and you could hear a pin drop. And I was like, hey, you guys, it's okay. Heather said she was going to show me some stuff and I was okay with it. And Heather was so sweet and gracious and she's just an angel. And I really, you know, and she was even helpful because I was honest with her. I told her about my visual impairment. And so
Hmm.
she was trying to even, accommodate me with that. But she was like, it was like Virgo to Virgo talk. And she's like, well, the best way for you to really do it, Eric, is probably just to memorize it. Because it was just like seeing the different, I see colors, but it was
Hmm.
like really seeing them clearly to tell about the different aspects. So I had to memorize it. Well, a
Right.
square is 90 degrees, a trine is 120 degrees, a conjunction could be, 0 to 10 degrees, right? The in conjunction, is this and that, and the opposition is 180. And then, connecting it with the different modalities and the multiplicities and the triplicities. And I mean, and I loved it. And I think for me, God knew I needed a Virgo teacher
Right.
because I'm going to tell you, no one breaks it down like us Virgos do. And it could be sun, moon, or rising. Because Virgos, we are. It's not just analytical and critical.
Mm.
It's about it being we're humanitarians who are of service to others, and we analyze and assess without emotion. So if you ask a Sagittarius, Sun or Mercury, do I look good in this shirt? They could be blunt and be like, no. You ask a Gemini or a Leo, they'll be like, oh yeah, I like that, but they want to just dress you. The Leo wants to dress you, and the Gemini wants to give you like 3,000 shirts and things or whatever perspectives. And you're like, oh my God, okay, the Leo's dressing you, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to wear this, but they're like, oh, we need more color, and all creative and very generous, right? All this stuff. The Virgo is going to say, yeah, I do like that shirt on you, Marilee. That's a great color. But have you ever thought of maybe an emerald green or this royal blue? Because right, they're giving you the example because it brings out your eyes, and then it could play off of this,
Mm.
and you know what I mean. So what do they want to do? Virgo wants to fix. They analyze and assess to make something be in its most optimal point. And that's why I tell my clients, and just in general, when I talk about it on my astrology videos and my work, Virgos are the best personal assistant because they will lift up and cheer someone up, and they're not going to be jealous. Virgo wants everyone to win.
Yeah. Oh, well, it make me feel so much better because I have my Virgo moon, so I love it.
Yeah, but you know what? You have to remember
Mm.
with the Virgo moon, sun, or our biggest kryptonite is that we are too self-critical.
Oh,
And so
yes.
now I speak as a recovering Virgo, and
Hmm.
I speak kindly to Eric about Eric. And I advise that to all my clients. And I tell people, like I would just say to you, my biggest goal and dream for you tonight, and that I say this to my clients, is to retire from negative self talk. That is no longer your job.
I love it. Oh, yeah, it is 100% like number one thing that is my karmic lesson in this life. So that is amazing. And I did want
Yeah.
to talk about, because you mentioned, and again, it turned on my like my analytical Virgo-ness about how astrology kind of structures sort of the ineffable, the things that like the spiritual, the things that seem kind of like fuzzy, like how do you really get your arms around it? Um, and I personally, I study Hermetic Kabbalah, and it's a similar type of structure, right? For me to understand like how
Okay.
spirit functions and why it came down into the
Right.
material world. And well. So the way you were describing astrology was really like uh it kind of like the
Well,
same thing.
yeah, well, think of it like this.
Mhm.
Imagine you're in heaven on the big sofa with God, source energy, the creator, and whatever name anyone likes to use. I tell people, hey, when I was in a coma and I almost died, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about that. I almost died a few years ago in 2021, and I called on Jesus,
Yeah.
you know, and I know that I got out of it, having my faith. So when I say deep water faith, I really mean it. Okay.
Yeah.
But to me, I think they all come hand in hand. The metaphysics, astrology, spirituality, numerology, human design, the I Ching, all these different things. And to me, what I've really come to understand, and for you to understand, for the audience, that the birth chart is the map of your life. So you're up in heaven and you're on the motherboard, or you're relaxing with God, and God is saying to you, where do you want to travel? Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Earth? And you select your parents, but you're sitting there and you're pushing buttons. I want a little bit more compassion and empathy. My soul needs to evolve, and I need to learn some discipline and patience. I need to have a challenging mother so I can learn to appreciate and then nurture and love unconditionally my children and
Mm,
go through the hardships to struggle with some poverty. Oh, maybe I need a limp foot, or like I chose to have an eye disease.
mm,
And you make these selections, and what you are actually pushing and selecting when you come in, that's the 360-degree 12 house natal birth chart. That's what you've chosen. And you can decipher through your South Node and Saturn, your karmic lessons, your Chiron and Pluto and Moon, past life energy that you need to heal and transmute and transform. Exploring through Uranus and Neptune, your evolution of your soul for freedom, liberation, spirituality, learning how to reprogram your subconscious mind, learn how to surrender and let go of the ego and transform so you can become God consciousness inside yourself and empower yourself. I look at astrology as a whole. So I have many different services that I offer. And besides like a regular natal birth chart or solar return or secondary progression, or people who come for career relationships, I have different services like Astrological life coaching, where I do a 5 week program where you'll come to me week one. We'll meet live over Zoom for 60 minutes, do the birth chart reading. And then we meet for the next 4 weeks, an hour at a time, and we do a deeper dive looking at 3 houses at a time. And I'm teaching you how to live and exist in the flow and energy of your birth chart. So you are empowered by these planets. You know how to manifest. You know how to heal all the relationships in your life and to forgive others, which is a true gift to yourself. To work with your Chiron and your healing your inner child. To work with the outer planets for the evolution of your soul and past life karmas. And I take you through such an experience, and we do deeper. We look at the regular chart reading with, aspects, but I go deeper. And each time, each week, when we're looking at those three houses, we're going to look at back on the background, the lunar mansions. So the degree points in your chart, you can look at it through the deacons, right? As I was talking earlier, as I'm a Virgo Capricorn deacon, right? So you start off with those early Virgos, right? Starting at like the 22nd, 23rd, and it does depend on the year. So some people don't understand that as, the planetary orbit and how the Earth and the sun and all the movements, some years the dates shift by a day. So
Mm,
that's why I think sometimes on the internet people will get overly confused with the cusp energy.
mm,
You're not like the cusp of rebirth. You're not a Aries and a Pisces. You're one or the other. You're either 29 degrees or 28 degrees Pisces, starting the cusp, or 0, 1, 2 Aries. Now I'll tell you, I use a 5 day orb, but you should never go past that. Some astrologers just do 29 0. Some will do a 3 day orb, one degree, 2 degrees, whatever. And some don't even like to even consider the cusp. But I think the cusp is very important because as you get to the 28th degree, the energy is ingressing. It's leaving the one sign, the Pisces, and
mm,
ingressing into Aries. So it's already walking in those attributes. Okay. And so, but you'll see on Google and some astrologers on YouTube, they have like 7, 9 day orbs. No, use numerology as the hint. 27 degrees is nine. Nine is the ending and the completion. That's the end of the road of that sign in that third decan. Now, yes, the 28th and 29th degree is still part of that decan, but in terms of like completing that energy, that 27 is the clue to you. And so I really love like programs like that. I do a moon tracking service
mhm,
where this is the best way I think for people also to learn astrology. The quickest moving planet, right? And in astrology, we know in astronomy, the sun and moon are luminaries, right?
that's right.
But in astrology, they're planets, and each planet and sign represents so many layers. And that's what I love about astrology. You're building like a spiritual cake. So you got
Mm,
the signs, you got the planets, then you got to put them in the houses, and then each house is layered anywhere from like 25 to 45 meanings. So that's how you get this complex mosaic of one unique individual human that is just so rare to them in their chart.
mm,
And I see it, right? Not only am I this astrologer, but I'm a father. So I get to see astrology from my wife, my children, and even my mother-in-law who lives with us. So I see it in multi dimensions and generations. So it's really, really cool and fascinating. But, that's where when you really get into learning the moon, which
mm,
is your what? Your emotions, your emotional mind, your roots, your ancestors. It's milk. It's your feelings, your sensitivities, your body, your intuition, your health, the family you create, and your mother. We track the moon in each sign in each house for a full month. And I explained to you how the moon will play out in your chart for a month. It's great for women, even tracking their menstrual cycles, but it's great for any human because you can understand in 2.5 days why and how your mood switches, or all of a sudden you feel a little bit more bloated. Sometimes I notice when I track the moon in a month in my chart, when it gets to certain placements, sometimes I'll have a stomach irritation, or maybe I bump out with like a little, couple of little bumps, or something on your face. And so when you start to really connect it, you can see it with your health, your mood, everything. So it's a really a dynamic service that I'm super proud of.
yeah. And you have such like your training as a life coach, and you also know numerology. Like, wow, you have such good foundations to even just the astrology, which is already amazing.
Yeah. Well, I try. I mean, but I tell people like, look, I'm very honest, right? Like if you ask me about a particular thing and I don't know it,
Mm,
and I'm not a master of it, then I won't offer it as a service. So
right.
like right now, I do so many services, but I don't do the astrocartography.
Mm,
It's something that I have to really focus on and learn, and then it's a little harder for me visually, but
mhm,
I'll get it if I want to, and when I do, I'll offer it as a service. but I don't think it's good for me or any light worker or spiritual person or even astrologer to be inauthentic and provide a service for someone that you don't know like the back of your hand.
Mm,
Because I take it very serious, astrology, in a spiritual way. For example, I do celebrity birth chart readings, and I'll put them up, but I only do celebrities that have passed away.
mhm,
So I've done like Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, Marilyn Monroe, Sinead O'Connor, and people love it, and I love doing it. But I get requests for like people who are alive, and I said if
oh,
I don't have their permission, I don't think it's spiritually right for me to read another person's chart in public. I don't care if they're famous or not, without
mm,
their permission. So if someone
yeah,
gave me their permission, of course I would do it. I have no problem. But I have my own code of ethics that I think, you don't cross certain boundaries spiritually. And so
mm,
I'm definitely a high moral person. And I think there's a right way to do things. Even when I work with clients and then I do their children's charts. And
mhm,
I will talk to the mother or father and let them know if I'm, meeting with them live, if the parent wants to be there, because I've met with some, people younger than 21,
mm,
they were okay like not being there. Or the one time the mom, she was there but she was in the background, kind of listening, kind of not. But I also will talk to the parent if I see anything that's really heavy or
mm,
in a adult mature sexual nature. I will, either kind of just save it for the parent, or
mm,
ask the parent, do you want to share this? Do you want me to leave it out in the reading, or
right.
do you want me to, introduce it and explain it in a very, professional but gentle way to them so they understand? And so you'll get different responses. But I think that that's my ethics and code. Like, why wouldn't I? I mean, I know as a father, I wouldn't want some other adult telling my kid anything, without asking me, for their own lives and stuff like that. Because in the chart, I see everything. And you know what I love? I've helped plenty of parents with their kids in terms of the best way for them to learn in their education, their reading, writing. I had a father tell me that the school was trying to tell them that their son was, autistic and this and that, and need to go to a special room. And I looked in the chart and I was like, no, no, no. We all learn differently. This is not one, crayon in one box, and the school system, which I was a part of, needs to be revamped completely. And so, they try to label children, and I think it's unfair because some people are more auditory learners,
Mhm,
right? If you have a Pisces and Mercury, you may need light music playing in the background. You may need to learn in isolation. You may learn more with pictures and concepts, right? If you had Mercury in Aquarius, you may need more of the technology now. This time may be perfect for you with, school from home or through iPads, or every kid now in school, my son has them, like laptops, you know, but then there may be kids like they need the old school pencil and paper. You know what I mean? Like maybe
mhm,
it's a Mercury Gemini or a Mercury Cancer. They need it like, and they may need to be, more nurturing. They may need, some kids may need more direct strictness, toughness, Mercury Capricorn. So it just varies. And you can see that in the chart through planetary placements.
mhm,
And I love helping because I think when you learn your child's birth chart, no exaggeration, you literally can become a way better parent.
mm,
Because just knowing my boys, their moon placements, it helps me to help guide them when they go through a stress or anxiety or emotions with friends or themselves with each other or whatever it is. So I know like, oh, your moon's in this sign, your moon's in Virgo, your moon's in Gemini, Scorpio. Oh, then you got to process the emotions like this.
mm,
And I can give them the space and not dictate from my Capricorn moon or as a father authority figure how things should be, but more meet them. I'm not like going to be soft like a lot of these parents nowadays. I want to be your friend. No, that's what's killing our country. Don't get me started with that.
yeah.
Do not get me started with that. But I am going to be fair, and
Mm,
I'm going to understand, well, this is how they actually need to release or dispense their emotions because we all do it differently.
right.
we're not the same people, and you have to respect human beings like that, even though if they're little human beings, two,
Hmm.
three, four, they have emotions, you know. So
Yeah.
it's really fun though,
Oh.
because that's that's where the magic is, you know, helping families, helping people with their businesses, whatever it is.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. I can't imagine how wonderful it is to have that for your children and being able to interact with them. And I know you mentioned, and not that I want to go like super deep, but I know that you mentioned that you have two twins, and people always talk about that as sort of like a thing about astrology, right? Like, how does it work with twins? Like, tell me that, sir. Like,
Oh yeah. Wow. This is deep because
uh-huh.
they're only 7 minutes apart.
Wow,
Pretty
yeah.
much the exact same chart.
Hmm.
But that's where numerology comes in. They
Oh,
have different names, so it gives you a different
right.
vibration and frequency. And their ascendant is 1 degree apart because the ascendant switches degrees every 6 minutes.
Wow.
At 1 degree and the numerology,
Hmm.
totally two different human beings. But they're such amazing kids.
Oh,
I mean, I have four sons in total,
wow.
and they rock my world. The Taylor twins, they bring it, and I
They're-
love it. I
oh, that's
love it.
amazing. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because that was always something that, maybe critics of astrology would throw there, but it's beautifully explained. So thank
Yeah,
you.
no, and that numerology, it makes a difference because separate from the date, the name is going to change
Mm,
their soul urge number. It's going to change different numbers. The life path will be, what it is because of the date, but then, or the soul urge, and then the destiny number. But, the name will change and they'll have different numbers. So they'll have similarities in the numerology because they're
mm.
born on the same day, but the name totally, so. But
Ooh,
it's really fascinating to see because for
hmm.
me, astrology is every minute.
Yeah.
Even with transits. One of my sons, when Mars was in Gemini for 7 months this past year, it was like there forever, or I think it was maybe the end of last year, going to this year, whatever. It was there forever.
Wow.
And I saw it play out in every family member's chart at my house. And it was so like one of my kids was in their sixth house, and he literally Mars can be burns. Gemini's the hands.
Mm.
He was doing something with the toaster, burnt his hand,
Oh no.
and like burnt it pretty good. I was like, oh my god. I'm like, and there's this thing, it's not so good, but it's good. There's on Twitter, it's like hashtag astrology good, where it could be a terrible event in real life, but astrologers are like, oh, but that's literally what the astrology said, so it's astrology good. And you're
Right.
talking like a tsunami and a hurricane, and like, oh my gosh, like that's terrible, but it's astrology good because
Right.
what the energy shows. So those are like, how astrologers can geek out and stuff. But like
Right.
his hand, and then my other son, his Mars was in Gemini in the 10th house at the time. And he was playing in the basketball league. And then like he hurt his hand and elbow because, the kid like fouled him and dropped him. And that was Mars and Gemini. And then I was having things. And then I saw my wife. It was just, I was like, wow,
Whoa.
okay. I was like, Mars, can you please go to Cancer?
Yeah.
Just
Like, get
please.
out
And
of
it's not
here.
like, and Mars in Cancer, right? It's now, so to January 4th, Mars, just entered into Capricorn, and that's where it's exalted. So when Mars enters Cancer, it's in its fall. So, not a death sentence when you have
Mm,
planets that are debilitated or in their fall, but it's just more challenging for that energy to manifest to how it wants to behave. Because Mars is
right.
at home in Aries and Scorpio and exalted in Capricorn. Mars is what? Our willpower, our drive. For man, our sex drive. It's brothers, boyfriends, it's energy, fire. It cuts, separates, divides. It's blood, surgeries, procedures. It's also land or property, real estate, right? But it's like how we like assert ourselves. It's the soldier, the warrior, the general, the fight, the arguments, the
Hmm.
passion. Mars is Tuesday, right? Martes, Tuesday. Did you know astrology is the first calendar?
No, I did not know
Are you ready for this? Okay. So
that.
we start off Sunday,
Mhm,
Sol, Domingo, the sun.
mhm,
Monday, Lunes, right? The moon. Tuesday, Martes, the planet Mars, the best day to run your errands, lift weights. You honor Mars when you lift the weights above your shoulder, right? Mars should be your busy day. Wednesday, Miércoles, Mercury, great day for breath work, the lungs, writing,
mm,
communicating, emails, right? Hump day. Journaling. Thursday, Jueves, Jupiter, okay? Abundance, fortune, planning trips, taking a class. It's wisdom, beliefs, philosophies, the teacher preacher energy. So Thursday is really this day of, Jupiter, the great benefic, but it's also a good day to learn something, expand your mind, zoom out, look at the big picture, higher knowledge. Friday, Viernes, Venus. That's why it's date night, romance, love language, chocolate, movies, arts, culture, entertainment. Venus is money, payday, material items. And then the day of the Sabbath, karmic Saturn. We're in a Saturnian bubble matrix. Saturn is the Sabbath, Sabado, Saturn. So that's the day of discipline, taking care of your responsibilities, structures, the DNA, your lineage, the day of, honoring, right? Saturn is like the stern grandma and grandpa, grandma
mm,
Capricorn, grandpa and Aquarius, but it's our karmic lessons. That's why we have the Saturn return. Show you how God works. There's no accidents. The medulla oblongata is maturing when Saturn matures. You're a functioning adult, right? When that is finished forming. And for women, because you guys mature faster than us, it's between ages 25 and 28 years old. For men, right, and this is connecting the cerebral cortex to the medulla oblongata, it's between, like, I think 28 and, us men, 31, maybe 32. It takes a while for men to mature. But what does that coincide with? Your Saturn returns, which is around 28 and a half, 29 years old. And so each planet has a maturity age. They may vary. Like the moon is usually 21, Mars is 27. Have
mm.
you heard of Club 27 before?
Oh, yeah, like where all the
Jim
people pass away.
Morrison, Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, Janis
Yeah,
Joplin. There's so many, and you're like, it's so sad. But think about
yeah,
Mars. It's that warrior fighter planet, and it can get you in a bad place when it's maturing, or it could be smooth. It
mm,
could be reckless. It could be dangerous. You know what I mean? So it makes sense when you really think about it in a deep way.
right.
But the sun will vary on the sign and the house, can mature between like 26 and 30. It just depends. So it's really fascinating. But
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's really like a great way to like just look at it all.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. I love associating it with the days of the week because then you kind of get that sort of flow of your life. And oh, that was really cool.
Yeah, and it is really spiritual because to me,
Hmm.
I'll be honest with you, there's so often, probably once a week, every 2 weeks, a client, because when you come to me, I have a questionnaire
Hmm.
and you answer the questions and you give me your birth information. And when I bring up the chart, I still get excited every time. And I hit enter and I'm like, oh, and I see the chart. And then I'm like the mad scientist. I have
Yeah.
to dive in with my Cap Moon and my Virgo Mercury and Sun and my Scorpio rising. And I'm like, okay, let's get to the truth for this beautiful
Mm,
soul, right? And but I deal with, first I will look at your Chiron wound. And Chiron, the wounded healer, is this, energy point where Chiron was Greek mythology, this centaur, right? And it's rejection, but there's like two woundings. One that's usually from in the womb to
mm,
about 16 or 18 months years old. And then the other one we look at, that's more unconscious. But the more conscious wounding is at the degree point in your natal birth chart. So let's say if your Chiron moon is at 23 degrees, and let's say it's, Pisces fifth house, fourth house, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
So I will ask you, I'll say, well, Marilee, what happened at 23 years old or 5 years old? And the wounding is, Chiron is an emotional, physical, or spiritual wound that usually happened at that age of the degree point. So it
Hmm.
could either be the 23 or you add it or the 5. And sometimes I've had clients with both wounding,
Oh.
both ages. And then the sign in the house tells me the theme of the story. So I'll let you know, well, it's Pisces. It could deal with deception. It could deal with, unfortunately, the bedroom. So sometimes sex abuse. It could deal with a mental issue. It could deal with a parent or like someone who had alcohol or drug addiction.
Mm.
It could deal with like fog, illusion, confusion. It can deal with depression. Your feet. Pisces rules the feet and your toenails. So if it's in a certain house, I'd be like, oh, did you injure your feet? So all these different things, spirituality, your imagination, creativity. And then the house layers the story. And then I'll write back. And then clients, I mean, I've had clients share stuff with me and they're like, I've never told anybody this before.
Mm.
And I take it, I let my clients always know anything you share with me, it stops here with me.
Right.
Never divulge. I never use a client's chart as an example. Nothing. Like for me, it's very sacred. Always have to have permission. But what's really awesome, and I will be seeing you there soon.
Hmm.
I have a monthly astrology meeting called Astrological Coffee Talk. I have to do this, the New Yorker, Coffee Talk with Eric. And we meet usually the third Saturday of the month. It can vary sometimes, but once a month for 2 hours over Zoom for only $20. And I have a group of people that come all over the world. I call them my 11th house crew because the 11th house is associated with the internet and astrology. So it's
Oh.
my 11th house crew. And people come. And so what I do is I will teach an astrology lesson. And, a lot of the people that come, they come from all different modalities and different things that they love or are into and different levels of spirituality or astrological knowledge. But it's a safe space because what happens is when people go through spiritual awakenings or when they get into astrology or these different, occult knowledge or esoteric knowledge things, a lot of times they're alone. Their
Mm.
friends and family aren't into it.
Right.
Maybe their spouse isn't, and so sometimes you just need like an astrology friend, an astrology buddy,
Yeah.
someone that gets your lingo and your language and like the things you pay attention to. And so I feel like I love being able to provide that for, anyone and everyone to come learn astrology, but have some fun, learn some things, exchange, businesses, ideas. I've had some people in Coffee Talk connect outside of it and support each other and like, oh, well, oh, you do this, I want to get a reading from you, or oh, you do this, oh, you make jewelry, you know what I mean? And so that's the environment that I create because I'm all about family. And I do the same thing on my podcast. I have a podcast that I do usually once a week, sometimes twice a week, called Knowledge is Love. Knowledge is Love Astrology Podcast on YouTube. And eventually I got to figure out how to get it on Spotify and iTunes and all those other places. But I do it on YouTube now. And it's really fun and I love it. And I get great guests and my audience is so loyal and I just greatly love them and appreciate them. And we have fun. But that place of Coffee Talk is so sacred to me, and I'm excited because in February I'll be starting my third year. It'll be Coffee Talk number 25.
Wow.
So it's really exciting. But I say all that to say, there is where we have a safe space, and I will offer sometimes in Coffee Talk where my Coffee Talk members that come, they can volunteer their birth chart to be read, and we do a blind reading.
Wow.
So let's say if we were doing your chart, we wouldn't say it's your chart. I don't show the name or even tell them the gender.
Mhm.
And then everyone in the room, and you have to be quiet. You act like, you act like you
Right.
don't know who it is either, right?
Yeah.
But we all dive in and everybody chimes in. I lead it and start it, but I let people come in with their thoughts and interpretations of the chart. So it's like you're having like 10 to 15, however many people I have that month looking at your chart. And then towards the end, then I reveal who it is. And then I let you come up and say, and I say, well, Marilee, how do we do? How do we, break down things with mom? How is that relationship? Tell us. And, whatever you're comfortable with,
Hmm.
I've had people say, oh, I'd rather not share that. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. so there's no pressure, but it's just, and that is such a way to learn. It's great for you to have all these different eyes and brains
Mm,
on your chart, right?
yeah.
Because you gain so much from it. But then it's great for everyone else to learn astrology because that's the best way for you to learn it. You got to do it. You got to look at it. But then you get the instant feedback, right? I
Hmm.
may think that Mercury in Virgo in the seventh house should play out like this, but then you're telling me, oh, well, this happened and that happened. And I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. So,
Mm,
we all learn. And
right.
that's what my student, I don't want to say my students, but my Coffee Talk members love about it. It
Hmm.
is so informative and fun and astrological and spiritual.
Yeah, I think such a great idea. So I'm very excited to go to the one on January 20th.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you have them every month. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, and that's what I really love. I have so many loyal members. Some come like every month, and then you have some people like, well, they were coming every month and then they
Mm,
missed because life happens. You're
yeah.
busy on the weekends, whatever. I try to do it earlier in the morning, but I try to hit it where I'm getting each coast. You know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
try to do like 11 a.m. Eastern or 12 noon, latest 1 p.m. Eastern to kind of get everybody.
Right.
And but then it's hard because I also have international people. I have people that come
Right.
from Amsterdam and Poland. I've had people from Australia, New Zealand, Canada. So I'm trying to juggle everybody
Right.
the best that I can. And I let people know, like, hey, apologies, because sometimes my schedule's not my own. I
Yeah.
gotta sometimes reschedule based on, like, sporting events for my kids. And sometimes I have to miss it, and I tell them, I
Yeah.
said, listen, Daddy's got to work. And my boys really understand. But when I can, I try to schedule around it because I think it's important for me to always be there for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. It's so great. So great that you're a good dad and you want to be there for your kids. Of course, everybody would understand that.
Yeah.
Um, wow, yeah, you shared so many great things so already, and you graciously given us some your time. I know you had like a pretty spectacular NDE experience, so I'll kind of
Wait,
it's
spectacular?
spectacular. It
I don't know
is
if that's the word for it, but
well, that was pretty strange choice of words. I
no, no, it's okay. I'm just, you know, it's
yeah,
funny.
it was very involved and like, but I'll leave it up to you, like what you want to share. That was you took away from that experience, I guess.
Well, I'd gotten valley fever and it weakened my immune system.
Right.
Uh, then I had gotten kind of, better. It lays dormant, but um, I had gotten COVID when they said it wasn't quite here yet, early in 2020, the first time.
Oh,
And I was sick for a good 22, 23 days. I was like, this is
wow.
not the average flu. I've had
Yeah.
walking pneumonia, bronchitis, and I've had the flu before. But this was a little bit, I was like, oof. I remember one night going to bed and I was like, God, am I going to be okay? Like, make me okay.
Yeah.
But, no hospital, no oxygen dropping. It was whatever. Life was going on. We were taking care of my mother at the time, who was a survivor, and I took care of my mother over 20 years. And she was a survivor of breast and brain cancer and then had pretty severe dementia. And at this time, she was in a wheelchair. So the
Hmm.
whole pandemic, we were on lockdown.
Wow.
Like you know, hear no evil, see no evil, talk to, nobody over, it was whatever.
Yeah.
And it was kind of really innocent and things were seeming to be, not so bad,
Hmm.
in terms of what was going on. But my twins, they had missed a couple of birthday parties and we just wanted to have a birthday party for them. And what I did was I made sure my mom was like out totally away from everybody in another room. But unfortunately, COVID came to the house and it was the
Mm.
Delta and it came through hardcore
Oh,
and everyone in the house got sick. My mother had to go to the hospital August 27th. I went in August 29th. Got to see her, and she was looking at me like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "You're gonna be okay," because she was actually doing actually better than me.
oh, wow.
She was 80 years old, and so I just knew she was gonna be fine. And
Mm.
um, I was getting sicker and sicker each day because of their protocols. They gave me steroids, even though I told them I had valley fever, and valley fever doesn't work well with steroids. You're not supposed to
Oh,
give
right.
And so, but they went ahead and did it anyway. I wasn't really aware of that. I was out of it. I mean,
Mhm.
just to give you an insight, when your oxygen gets to 88, you should go to the ER, right?
Right.
Do you know when I called them on the 29th, my oxygen was like at 58 or
Oh,
something? And they
no.
were like, Mr. Taylor, how are you standing, walking, and talking? I was like, I don't know. And I was just like, oh, strong like bull. I don't know. Like, I'm just, and
Yeah.
so, and I remember. Oh, my wife was so upset, and my boys, and they wouldn't come in the house, and I, come out, and I'm getting in the ambulance, and I see my boys crying, and I was like, listen, I was like, it's gonna be okay. Daddy's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, this is August 29th. I said, don't worry, Daddy's gonna be okay. And they're like closing up the ambulance door, and I said, I'll see you in October.
Hmm. Interesting.
And I'm like, my wife was like, no, it's August 29th, and I'm like, see you in
Yeah.
October.
Oh.
Okay, I get there. I'm getting sicker and sicker. My wife, like, they wouldn't even let her in the hospital. She snuck in because they did invite her to come because my mom was nonverbal to go see and check on my mom. But I was just down the hall from my mom. So after she was with her
Mm.
and making sure she was okay, she snuck down to check on me, because, she's my wife, and they were crazy. And it wasn't even like the midst of like the heat of the pandemic. So it wasn't like the hospital was overflowing, nothing. It was like almost a ghost town, really.
Right.
I mean, that's how it seemed. And they were like almost ready to arrest her. I mean, it was foolishness,
Wow.
and it was just terrible. I mean, she's just there to check on me. I think she brought over some food. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, please. And I mean, what is she gonna do? You know what I mean? Except for just love on her husband. But
Yeah.
and so they had me wearing this like certain mask, and they're like, you have to wear this big like gas. It was like a gas mask, and this was like they're like, oh, this will help your lungs and help you heal. First time I did it, I really didn't like it, and I tried it again, and it was okay. And they were like, well, Mr. Taylor, you got to keep doing it because this is the only way you're going to get out of here. And I was like, okay. And I remember I had my fantasy football drafts. My wife was like, I could kill you for doing that. September 5th and September 6th. I did it with my good buddy that has a sports radio show over the phone, and he was helping me pick, I was giving him the names, but he would pick for me. And it was September 6th, and told him goodnight. I called my wife. I was like, I'm real tired, babe, and they want me to wear the mask again tonight.
Mm.
Like, I'm just gonna go to bed, and I'm exhausted. She's like, you should be. You shouldn't have been doing that stupid draft. And I was like, oh, I'm okay. I'm just tired. And that was it. She got a call 11 o'clock at night, panting. Mrs. Taylor, your husband's organs are failing.
Oh
Death
gosh.
is imminent. We'll call you back in an hour. Click. I mean, in a panic.
Ugh.
And I guess I don't know if I coded. I don't know what happened.
Mm.
I don't know they didn't tell me. They called her back an hour later. I'm on a ventilator. September 6th, a couple days for my birthday. She couldn't get even into the hospital to see me until September 21st. I guess I
Wow.
had to be COVID free. She had to be COVID free, whatever, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She was not allowed. She would FaceTime me every day, but she was not allowed to come physically visit me until, or maybe it was September 20th or 21st. But, while I was in a coma, I mean, it was not a day of darkness. I went through a dark night of the soul,
Mm.
spiritual warfare. Unfortunately, my mother died and passed away while I was in a coma, September 21st.
Ugh.
And as you can imagine, that was,
Ugh.
it totally floored me. I was in a hospital, and this is like a few days after I had awakened. I didn't wake up till October 16th, 40 days. I was in a coma. I did wake up though late night on the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, my wife wasn't there, nothing. It was real dark. And, I mean, this was like what, 37 days of straight sleep. I
Ugh.
was like, I didn't know what was, and I was just
Yeah.
with the ventilator in my mouth. I just remembered I was sweating and my
Mm.
hair was in my eyes, and I wasn't strong enough to do anything, but I'm trying to reach my arm up to wipe my.
Yeah.
These people thought merely that I was trying to pull out my ventilator,
Oh gosh. Come on.
and they put restraints on me.
Ay, ay,
I can't tell you how angry I was because in my head, I'm like, can you turn on the effing lights and look at me and see that I'm sweating.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, like, nothing. It was night care in the hospital. Well, at least this time in this situation, it was terrible and
Yeah.
inhumane. And I dealt with like way too much. And they did some things that were like inappropriate, like sneaking me medicine and
Oh
denying
gosh.
me this. And they denied me the monoclonal antibodies. They were giving me terrible tube feed, didn't want my wife to give me, because we had from my mother organic tube feed, Kate Farms.
Mm.
Anybody's
Mm-hmm.
ever in this situation, take Kate Farms, because the regular stuff, it had me having. They were giving me, starting to give me insulin shots. I
Oh
was
my
on the verge of
gosh.
becoming a diabetic. I've never had
Ah,
high blood pressure or blood sugar issues in my life, but they were giving me, I think it was A plus or Jevity or some crap, and then my wife, was asking them to switch, and they were saying no. And she's like, "No, I'm going to provide it. This is what I want. You have to give this to him."
yeah.
The nurse did it, but she got in trouble and almost got fired for switching it for me. Can you imagine that?
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
and then I finally got it. Do you know, within, no lie, within 48 hours, my numbers cleared and everything went good. And then she was like, "Stop pricking him. Stop taking his blood."
Yeah.
And it was, yeah. So I mean, but anyway, I woke up, I made it, and I went through spiritual tests, spiritual warfare. I I know for me, I called on, I was like trapped in this like place and all this stuff, and all I could do was I called. I was like, I called. I was like, God, Jesus. I said my mom's name, my wife, my four
Yeah.
boys, and I kept saying it and saying it, and I got out of that situation. And but while I was in a coma, never had a moment of darkness. I went to different dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
I even astral traveled to my home and saw one of my twin sons. Now, this is fascinating. He's very spiritual and gifted. He's one of those Neptune Pisces babies. They are no joke. If you guys are parents and you got any of those kids 11 and younger, you know what I'm talking about. These people are from another galaxy. Okay. So, but he saw me and I saw him. But first, okay, so I had died 3 times in a coma. And I think it was after my first or second time. And then I had an option to go to my house and see my now 14-year-old, 12-year-old at the time, 5 years in the future. But I didn't
Mm.
want to do that. So then I came and just like was plopped on my sofa in my living room. And I saw my wife talking to like her friend and business associate who was helping her with some stuff. And then I saw this guy who was like a spirit, but at the same time, he was, I guess, playing the role in my mind or subconscious,
Mm.
unconscious mind as my wife's boyfriend. And she was cheating on me and having an affair and trying to kill me while I was in a coma. And nothing of the sort. She was like the
Right.
greatest wife ever, saving my life. She was there all day, every day. Like, I mean, it was what I went through. It was like torture. It was terrible. Okay.
Yeah.
And then her and her friend were like in 90, you remember like technology, right? 90s VHS technology in color. My son, 10, who was 8 at the time, he was like in like 4K, super
Wow.
HD. And it was so deep. And he came over, hugged me.
Oh.
He said something to me. I think I heard him or remember him saying anything. And then he kind of walked off.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was doing that in real life, he said he told his mother, my wife, that he saw me, and he said, "Daddy's gonna be okay." And
Oh.
so, like, the minute I got off the ventilator and I could like mumble and talk a little bit, that's like
Yeah.
the first thing I asked my wife. I was like, "Who was at the house?" I was, and she's like, "What?" I was like, "Who did you have anyone at the house?" She's like, "What?" She's like, "What is he asking?"
Yeah.
And then I said specifically, I was like, "It was your friend," and I said her name.
Yeah.
Was she there? And she's like, "Yeah, actually, yeah, she was at the house." And I said, "I know." I said, "I saw you guys. I was there." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "I was at the house and I saw Jackson. I said, I saw my son. I saw Jackson."
Yeah.
And he came over and hugged me. And she goes, "Wait a minute. He told me that he saw you." And I was like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
So those type of spiritual things, like you can't make that up.
No.
You know what I mean? And so like that's like something where for him to see me, I saw him
Yeah.
and I'm like in a hospital in a coma and he's at home, but I was at the house and I saw my wife and I remember what her and her friend and business associate were talking about. And I was trying to get their attention, but they couldn't hear or see me. So I had experiences like that. I was going to Mars. One time I got shot and I could feel the warmth of the bullets hit my body,
Oof.
but I come to realize that I must have agreed to all of this
Mm,
before I came here, that this was part of my story to upgrade me.
right.
Since then, like I said, I've always been spiritual and deep water faith. And, I would have dreams of the future. I dreamt about my wife before I met her. And when I was dating girls, when I was single, I would see them when they weren't with me.
Mm.
Come to find out after learning my birth chart, I have Uranus in the 12th house in Libra, and that's that.
Oh.
But I also dreamt about 9/11 2 years before it happened. So like I would have these dreams and these visions, and I remember I
Mhm.
suffered with nightmares after my father's murder when I was a little boy.
Yeah.
My dream world has always been like, but that's not Uranus. Uranus is the spiritual awakener. It's like, it's like sudden events and extreme weather and,
Yeah.
genius, weird, bizarre energy and liberating and futuristic, innovative. But it's also the central nervous system. Uranus is electricity. It's the higher octave
Right.
of Mercury.
Hmm.
And so when you have in the 12th house, it's like, oh, adios mio. It's wild.
Right.
So, but thankfully for me in a good way. But
Yeah.
it's so I really I went through the ringer,
Yeah.
and I went through these battles even with the doctors and nurses that I felt like they were trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, obviously I, had some great ones, but at the same, it's like this weird feeling, like it's like they did stuff that was
Hmm.
like making me sicker and killing me,
Right.
and they did stuff to bring me back to life and save me. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I don't hold grudges or have any anger or spite or anything in my heart. When I
Hmm.
first got to the hospital, I was like verbally assaulted in the emergency room by the doctor. It was like disgusting. They were very unprofessional. But, I just, I am someone who is about forgiveness and
Hmm.
gratitude and has always been very humble and gracious and just my love for God and humanity. And
Hmm.
I just know that all that mattered was that I made it
Yeah.
and I was able to get back to my family. But my spiritual gifts have increased. Now, when I work with you and I read your chart, I get these visions and downloads that are beyond my own astrological knowledge. I
Mm.
can visualize like you with your moon and Virgo and this house and whatever, and then like get like almost little flashes of you in action doing the description of the sign and planet in the house.
Wow.
Why? Like it's exciting. And so I feel that it's made me even a better astrologer.
Hmm.
I feel that it's brought me closer to God. It's leveled up my abilities and gifts and just I I'm just now it took a lot to rebuild. I lost 36 pounds,
Oh my
mostly
gosh.
muscle. My shoulder was out of place. I didn't get home to November 20th. And then my New Year's gift turning into 2022, I got shingles.
Oh God. Oh man.
My poor wife had the chickenpox because she didn't have it as a little girl, and her mother couldn't remember
Oh.
if it was chickenpox, mumps, or measles.
Yeah.
And so she had touched my back, not knowing what it was, and got chickenpox. And
Ah,
I don't know if you know, but as an adult, chickenpox is terrible.
oh, your poor
So
wife.
we
You poor
both,
you.
I know, we brought in the New Year suffering. The kids are
Oh.
like, okay, mom and dad are checked out. I mean, we had a great New Year, but it was just like, we were like done.
Oh, wow.
But,
Well, I am so happy you're here, and
oh,
even through
thank you.
all of that, awfulness, but
Yeah.
you have a really, expansive perspective about it. But whew,
Yeah. Well, it's so funny until you go through something like that. Like, to be honest
mm,
with you, I've always been into like so many different things,
yeah.
but I never knew about this whole NDE world
Oh,
and like
right.
listening to people's story. Like, I've never
Yeah.
watched anything.
Yeah.
And now I've, done, a few podcasts but it took me to my second year anniversary to get to a place where I was open and ready and willing to share my
Oh,
story.
yeah.
Because it was very personal and it was very,
Hmm.
I mean, So let me just give you this last little insight and
Yeah.
glimpse to it. My wife, wanted me to get a little healthier. So maybe I had just gotten my voice box, and this may have been October 20th, 21st, 22nd, somewhere in there. She comes into my, I was about to say hotel room, but my hospital room.
Right.
I was there so long, it felt like
Yeah.
a hotel. And she was like, she came with the hospital chaplain.
Mm.
And after all that I went through, I'm thinking that she's gonna ask me for a divorce.
Oh no.
That's how bad no, seriously, that's how bad,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? With all that I experienced.
Yeah.
And it never dawned on me that my mother had passed away.
Oh gosh.
Because last I saw her, she was doing all right,
Yeah.
and she actually didn't officially, they put COVID on the death certificate, but it was really pneumonia.
Mm.
I don't want to get into all that, but she
Yeah.
wasn't properly taken care of. And so you and I could die of pneumonia if we're not properly taken care of. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyone. So, but she comes in and tells me, and I was crushed and
Oh,
devastated. I was blown. It never dawned on me, Meryl. I knew she was okay.
yeah.
But I know now in my heart she was ready.
Yeah.
And I had told her years before, Ma, if you need to go, me and my wife and the kids, we're good. I don't want you to stay around just for me. But she
Mm.
had so much fun. Like that was my goal each
Yeah.
day, to make my mother laugh. And she loved my boys. Oh,
Oh.
she had relationships with all four of them. And sometimes it was so deep because even being a little nonverbal,
Hmm.
the dementia got worse, she
Yeah.
still loved on them and taught them so many lessons: compassion, empathy, strength, endurance, wisdom, patience, love, kindness. And we still, when we pray, at night and we have memories, they named the elf on the shelf Grandma Cheryl after my mother.
Aw.
So, you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
a beautiful relationship. And
Mm.
she was a fifth grade teacher. And she taught them so many things, from the walker and then the wheelchair, and just
Hmm.
an amazing mother and grandmother, And she was a
Yeah.
Pisces moon and a Pisces
Oh,
rising.
really?
Oh my, and a Taurus sun. Oh, she was
Oh,
tough.
yeah.
And she loved to drive fast. Oh my God. My mom, that you got to watch Tauruses.
Leadfoot.
They're speed demons.
Yeah.
They will drive fast. So I always get my clients, if I see that you have Taurus in the third, fifth, sixth, 10th house,
Hmm.
that's one of the first questions I'll ask them. And everybody smiles, laughs, and blushes, because those are the houses where you're transporting.
Right.
And they're like, how'd you know that? I was like, she got Taurus there. Taurus drive fast. She's like, yeah, I'd love to. And I was like, I know. My mom used to be like Mario Andretti, and she had the Taurus sun in the third house. She was like, I was like, she would make the car dance and stuff. She
Oh
was
my
great.
gosh.
Oh yeah, she was
Wow.
so much fun.
Oh, yeah, thank you for sharing so much about your mom. She sounds like an amazing woman. And
Ah,
what a gift she gave to your family. What a gift you gave to her, knowing, not really knowing when she would leave. So,
yeah.
but that's so beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Gosh, Eric, you have given us so much knowledge, so much wisdom. Um, I, of course, will put up all your links and everything in the show notes to your YouTube and all your websites and everything. Um, is there one last piece of wisdom that you would like to leave, words of wisdom that you would like to leave with
Um, yeah,
everyone?
definitely. I mean, we're in 2024, so Happy New Year to everyone. It's a universal 8 year.
Yeah.
And that changes the vibration and frequency. We were coming from a seven, which was more about spirituality and isolation. It's got a Neptune, and in Vedic astrology, K2, which is the South Node energy. And now with the universal 8, you hear everybody talking about it all over the world, and this and that. And then in Chinese astrology, it's a dragon year. But we're also entering in Pluto and Aquarius. So it comes in on January, late night on the 20th, early 21st. and then it will retrograde one last time from September 1st to November 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Again, at the degree it's at now, that 29th degree, the energetic degree, and you're seeing all the stuff coming out, whether it's from Epstein's list to
Oh boy.
this controversy with that and
Yeah.
that, and, all the structures, because that's what Pluto does. It digs up.
Yeah.
And so in '08 to 24, Pluto Capricorn, but that showed us all the deception and lies in the mortgage and the stock market, government,
Mm-hmm.
politics, and the Me Too movement. So that's what's been happening.
Right.
So all the people who've been on the wrong side of spirituality and creating all the abuse, the manipulation, the power control, well, now their comeuppance and their karma's coming back on them.
Right.
So the universal 8 year, you have to watch out because yes, it is about manifesting money and power and CEO and building new things and structures in your life. But it's also as above, so down below, and so
Mm.
within as without. It's instant karma. The eight is like infinity. It's, back around, back, forth, and around. So you also in this year need to be on your best spiritual behavior. I tell people this is not the year to lie, cheat, do anybody wrong.
Mm.
And don't get me wrong, you should never do that stuff.
Right.
But for those who are on the edge, right?
Right.
This year, definitely don't do it, please, because you're gonna pay. You
Right.
will pay. So, but I love to leave people with positivity and optimistic. Look, we can't lie to each other. The world's crazy right now. From war to famine to abuse to this to that. There's too much. Money, gases, this, everything's too high. It seems like someone could say the cosmos is kicking us in the butt.
Right.
But what's happening is that we're going through a huge shift. We're ending an age. Ages are a little bit over 2,000 years. We're ending the Piscean age and then going into the age of Aquarius. And that is taking away the veils of the deception and the illusion and bringing in the age of awakening and liberation and freedom. And it's same thing leaving the Pluto Capricorn since '08, Pluto Aquarius from 24 to 44, and the final, ingress into it will be on November 19th. And it'll be there for 20 years. And that is really bringing in more of a power to the people, where Pluto was the power from the top down.
Mm.
Capricorn, Pluto and Aquarius is more from the bottom up into the people, more equality, more, I used to say back in the days, everybody gets a slice of pizza and a Snapple. So now I say everybody gets vegan pizza and some
Right.
kombucha.
Nice.
But it's about equality. It's not about the haves and have-nots. It's more about, and I don't even want to get into like socialism or it's not about any of that. It's just about everybody getting more of a seat at the table,
Mm.
not having these, situations of such neglect and such poverty and such lack of food. I mean, our planet is plentiful.
Yes.
We have more than enough in every nation for every spirit and soul on this planet. But we have people in power who, quite frankly, don't want us to not only be alive, but don't want us to have a piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
They know their time is up. So that's why things have been so wild and crazy because they're misbehaving. Because there's, it's like stubborn children who
Right.
can't get their way. And so, and I think that energetically, we're all kind of having an upgrade, even those who choose. And I never judge anyone. We're all like, think of Earth as Earth school. And
Mm.
so, where you and I could be ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, well, we could have a friend or family member who's in pre K, kindergarten, first, second grade. They're no different from us, they're no less than us. They're just on a different vibration and frequency and they are not awakened or not ready to ascend at this time. But it doesn't mean that they never will.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? And you don't put someone in a box or a container because I don't know your story. I don't know your chart. You may have your awakening tomorrow and then it like takes off and then like you're this spiritual guru a year from now and you're way more advanced than anybody. And so it's not a competition.
Right.
It's not a race. It's just we all have chosen to be here at this time. So there's no victimhood in astrology or spiritually. And we have chosen to be a part of this hashtag New Earth and ascending and really leaving the 3D and entering in the 5D, where the frequencies of love, gratitude, and being your authentic self will reign supreme.
Wonderful. Oh, I love it. It's going to
Go get
be,
it.
yeah,
And the
go
North
get
Node's in
it.
Aries, so no excuses. Let's go. Let's not wait. Go be a brave, courageous, independent leader. Have fun. Be a pioneer maverick, and go get it done. No excuses when the North Node's in Aries.
Whew. All right.
Go do
Got
it.
our orders. We'll do it.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. Well, again, wow, you gave such wonderful, gracious with your time and your wonderful wisdom. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Eric.
Well, thank you, Merle. This was a pleasure.
Yeah.
And, like you said, I know all the information will be,
Mhm.
down below. If people would like, you have questions, or, if you ever want to take advantage of my birth chart sale, like Capricorn season right now, it's going to January 20th.
Yeah.
And you can do either a natal birth chart, solar return, or secondary progression. And the regular birth chart is $125, but I'm offering now for all Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Risings for just 100. But then I
Wow.
have another option, and this one I'm really proud of. I don't think any other astrologers do it, but I do also a chart reading where we're not meeting live on Zoom.
Mm.
Afterwards, if you want to, you can pay a little extra $20 to meet. Actually, it's $30 to meet for 30 minutes, and you can ask any questions. But the reading is a chart where I do a 40 to 50-minute custom video summary of your life. It's like a mini movie of your life,
Whoa.
breaking down on video the entire chart and looking at, and you get an audio transit reading of your current and future transits in your birth chart, even looking at like Pluto and Aquarius for the next 20 years, Neptune leaving Pisces and Saturn leaving Pisces in 2026, going into Aries. And so I do that. And then along with, you also receive videos of all your planetary placements in your chart. So I really give my clients and customers um, um, really like spiritual homework, like so
Yeah.
much, like that.
Right.
I like to overgive
Yeah.
because to me, it's not about, telling you, giving you fish. I'd rather,
Hmm.
right? The old adage, teach you how to fish.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want, because I want you to be able to learn. And that's a great way for you to be like, wow, okay, he explained everything. Like now I know how to, my marching orders, I know how to, and people take out of it whatever they want to take out of it.
Hmm.
But I also give you the tools to empower you,
Right.
with the learning astrological knowledge. And it's so beneficial.
Oh,
I mean, I wish that I knew what I know now in my 20s. It would have saved a lot of
yeah.
stress and heartache, and oh my God. So I love working with like Gen Z or younger millennials, or I've worked with people from Pluto Cancer to Pluto Capricorn, and I
Oh.
love it. No matter their age, I love working with people and doing chart readings, and I can't wait to start doing the Pluto Aquarius babies and seeing their chart, because strap on, people. We have a new level of beings coming to, here on Earth. So it's going to be beautiful.
Oh, I love it. All right. Yeah. Definitely, look into what Eric has to offer because he's
Oh, and I'm
clearly
sorry. So
passionate.
yeah, I'm sorry. You can email me at
Oh.
Big E Astrology at gmail.com,
Mhm.
or you can visit my website, sign up for my newsletter, book a lot of my services there at bigeastrology.com. So
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much, Eric. Your support means the world to us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with others who might find this content valuable. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more enlightening discussions. Your engagement helps us grow, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of the Casual Temple community.